What was life like before Jesus? I don't remember. I grew up in a family like a lot of you guys did. Um, Went to church, Sunday school, vacation Bible school, Wednesday night prayer services. I was raised in the church. Somewhere around second or third grade, I remember going to a tent revival. For some of y'all that probably don't know what that is, I'm aging myself. But you did have this guy, and it was really hot, and it was always in the middle of the summer, and he'd get up on stage and yell at you for about 2 hours. And I don't remember a word that was said that night. But what I do remember is a bunch of people went down to the front of the stage. So when we got home, my mom's put me to bed. I asked her, I said, just exactly what was going on, Mom? And she very clearly shared the gospel with me and why they had went down there. And I said, well, I want some of that. I want to be saved. I want Jesus in my life. Remember it clear as a bell. Next several years, I'm just your average kid. I'm into sports. I'm into hunting. I'm into fishing. I'm your that little kid that's running around outdoors, and he could run into a tree and he'd bounce back up and go. I just had no stop. Until about the age of 13 or 14, I lived in a family where I never heard my parents argue one day. At first, I thought that was a good thing. Now I realize it probably wasn't, because they never learned how to resolve conflict. About that time, we quit going to church. Within a year, they're divorced. And I'm the pawn that's torn between the two of them. A position that no kid needs to be put in. They didn't mean it. They both loved me. But it had lasting effects on me. Because you see, for the next 15 years, I rarely set foot back in the church because I was pursuing happiness in my own flesh. No judgment coming from me today. If you're divorced, God's got a redemptive story for you too. And I know several of you in here who He has redeemed. This is my story. I'm just sharing it with you. After high school, I'm fortunate enough to go to college, and I tell people I crammed 4 years into 6. Some of y'all caught that. After that, I met my soon-to-be wife, Karen, who I'm married to this day. Neither one of us were walking in the faith, but both of us had grown up in church, and both of us had professed our faith at an early age. Fast forward, we get married, and within a couple years, we have our first child, Darby. This was about 26 years ago. One of the most beautiful days of my life. If you've ever had a kid, you know what it's like to sit there and hold your firstborn for the first time. You can't replace it. That joy, there was no bigger high than I'd ever had. Within 5 minutes, Karen's dying on me. I go from the height of my ever being excitement and joy to now all of a sudden something's terribly wrong going on. Being a guy, I thought I could fix everything. I was full of my own confidence, and my own identity was who I was and what I had built myself around me, whether it was my career, whether it was sports, what did I accomplish. My identity was misplaced. So as I'm standing at the end of her bed, and there's a midwife, doctor hadn't even made it in yet. I'm combing her hair back and said, baby, you're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Just trying to reassure her. All the while she's looking at me and says, I'm dying, with just that stress in her voice. And she was about to color this piece of paper because she'd been bleeding out. Doctor comes in. This guy was I find out later, a very godly man. He comes in and looks at her and says, hey, I got time to talk to you and tell you what's going on. We need surgery. I said, well, let's go. What are we waiting on? Again, I'm that guy. I can fix anything. I remember strolling down through the hallways of the hospital, and we get to the double doors where they open up to go in for surgery, and he stops everybody, nurses, everybody, says, son, you can't go any further than this. And I totally lose it. At that point in my life, God took me to my knees, and I was reminded I'm not in control of anything other than my own actions and my own decisions. I couldn't control the outcome of what was about to happen. After learning how to pray again, which I prayed feverishly for about 45 minutes, like I hadn't prayed in a long time, the doctor comes walking out in the waiting room and says, with a smile on his face, I get up and meet him. He says, son, your wife's going to be fine. And he explained what happened. I'm just sitting there thanking him. I said, God, thank you. Thank you so much, doctor. Thank you. And he's like, stop right there. Your wife shouldn't be here. You need to thank God. I didn't have anything to do with it. Okay. We were fortunate enough that we had 2 more children. God healed those wounds, and my journey started where I started focusing back on Him. Once again, I worked way too much. My habits hadn't changed. Karen meets a friend at work that invites her to church. Well, he uses my wife once again to get my attention, and I start going, and I'm just convicted like I've never been convicted before. The day before my second child is born, I rededicated my life to Christ, and I pursued a journey of following Him. It hadn't been easy, and it's been pretty ugly at times. If you don't believe me, just ask my wife. Ask my kids. What happened during all of that was God never left me. He was always there from the time I was in 3rd grade and asked Him into my life. It was I that left. There's a verse I want to share. It's in Genesis 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intends it for good. All these bad things that were happening to me that I thought were monumental, God turned them around and used it for my good. It was humbling. How's my life changed? How hadn't it changed? My want-tos aren't the same. My desires aren't the same. My habits aren't the same. I'm still human. I'm still flesh. But thankfully, I've got some good friends around here that remind me when I step out. And I need to confess and turn back. How do I follow Jesus today? It's not about me. Those of you that know me know it's really not. Whatever I do, I want to glorify God. I've had the privilege over the last 10 years to be involved in life group with some amazing people, but not just any life group for high school kids. Chris and Stacy have been brought into my life. They're some amazing people. Todd and his wife, they taught me how to share the gospel with kids and ask questions. You see, during that 10-year period, I was introduced to my future son-in-law about 9 years ago, maybe 10 years ago when we started this, and he was going through the same thing I did of a broken family. I was able to walk life with him, introduce him to Christ. He got saved. He's pursued my daughter. He is a good husband now. He leads her well. He's a spiritual man. Both of them serve in the youth on Wednesday nights because they know the impact it had on them. My other 2 daughters serve over in Crest Kids area. One of them in Crest Kid. The other one serves in the itty bitties. It's about giving back. I've got a lot I could say, but I'm way over time. And I appreciate you listening to me. Something that's not part of my testimony that's heavy on my heart right now, and maybe the reason I'm slowing down some, is Satan wants to attack us, and he wants to attack us in our homes. And he wants to attack the parents because they're the leaders of those homes. And if he can attack those parents, I can confess to the impact it has as a kid growing up for the rest of your life. If you're struggling, there's a lot of people here that want to love on you and point you back. If you're pursuing your feelings lie to you. Let's follow the truth. If you're a student and you're struggling, man, I'm so thankful people like Pine Cove coming over here. But I'm looking around and I'm seeing a lot of men and women that I know that would love to invest in that student and help them realize they're not alone. Don't go pursue social media. Don't go pursue your worldly, fleshly items to fill that void, because Jesus is the only way. Thank you for allowing me to share my testimony.